a slide presentation. I haven't done actually any of those since I was the CEO of Dress for Success San Antonio. Yeah. So yes, so I'm the co-founder and I was the CEO for 14 years. And then left in about, I guess it was 2015. And I was really at a crossroads. I think y'all will identify with this little story. So I was really at a crossroads because I didn't have a plan B when I left the agency. And it wasn't a good parting. So, so I really didn't have a plan B. And I just was like, and I had just completed my master's degree in nonprofit management, and I was in a PhD program at Our Lady of the Lake in leadership. So, it was kind of one of these things. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I so really seek direction from Source, really do, and just that connection, which has really gotten a lot deeper over the last few years, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But so when I left, didn't have a plan B, and it's like I don't know what to do. And one of my ex-board members, or one of my previous board members, she was like, "Oh, just go to work for another nonprofit." Of course, and I thought, no, that didn't do anything for me. And I had come from corporate. I was in sales, very successful, a director of sales for a telecommunications billing company, then got into nonprofits after a epiphany from God that said, I could fall from the sky, and what difference does it make that I walk this earth? So I quit my very lucrative job and then got into nonprofits. Yeah, and then it was just like, I got to make a difference here somehow. And there's a particular reason why I started working with battered women. It's because I am a survivor. And I'm one of those women that my ex-husband, who was a cop, he locked me up for a year. I actually did a TED talk on it. So I'm a TED speaker. But anyway, I digress, and I'm sorry. I just kind of like that and that. So when I left Dress for Success, I really honestly did not know what I was going to do, because that was my baby. I mean, it was so successful because I was one of my clients, I had been there. So I really identified with what these women were going through. And so I started just praying, and I thought, I am not going to do anything until I get some direction, because I don't know what to do. And I prayed about it and just sent her, and I kept getting, you need to paint. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I need to paint. And then I was arguing. Anybody ever done that? Arguing with God? It's like, but I was the CEO for 14 years. I've got a master's degree. I'm in a PhD program. On and on. And it's like, I don't care. I just don't care. Do you trust me? And it was like, yeah, paint. And the very first painting that I did, I just painted from in here, and it was a shipwreck. And I posted it, and people were responding to it going, oh my God, did you know you were a painter? And it's like, no, I didn't. And from there, I just started painting and just really asking for direction. So I paint, I think, very differently. I've had since I started painting, I will go take workshops, but I didn't learn to paint from workshops. I didn't learn to paint from school, because I learned to paint from within, from God. And so that's where I paint from. The same thing with, so I have a real different, the way a process, and I was going to go through my process. And actually, I'll tell you about one that is another painting that I think, Ilna, you know about this one, about Joan of Arc. So what happened with Joan, and this, I had this experience previously to a certain extent. I did a whole series on I'll be real careful with that TV. Okay. I had a
it's worth more than a TV. So.
Okay. Oh yeah, this one really is. So I had a I had done a series on, I'm very social justice minded, and so I did a series, and I had actually an exhibit on this one series about incarceration, because having had that experience of being locked up. Yeah, being locked up by my ex-husband. I mean, it was, so I actually taught in the jail for 2 years. And I would go, and it was pretty profound. I mean, the inmates really seemed to get a lot from what I would say, because I would start out, first of all, how many CEOs do you know that? How many CEOs have come and talked to you? And they're like, nobody. And I said, well, my staff is really annoyed with me because and this was true, their take was, Pamela, what are you doing? Why do you do this? Assign a staff member to go to go present on workforce development, but I did it with a metaphysical twist, like Source. And so I told them, I said, the reason that I'm here is because I have a message for you. And this message is so important that I did not trust anyone else to deliver it to you. I was assigned. I was directed that I had to be here. And my message, which I think a lot of people do not know this, is that you are a beautiful, bright light created for greatness. And that in each and every one of us, there is such greatness, even to the fact that that spark which gives us life is God. It's the divine. And I would have people, they're like, I didn't know that. And it's like, yes, I know. That's why I had to be here. But anyway, so I started down that path, and I incorporated that same philosophy, that same direction that I was getting into my work. So this is Joan of Arc. And I painted her, I don't even have it, I think in like 2016, 2017. I didn't have enough experience to paint this painting. This is not me. I didn't paint this. This was a God thing, truly, because I was listening to something on the radio and was made aware of Joan of Arc. And it's like, yeah, she really sounds like a fascinating woman, right? I just really connected with her. So I, as with all of my process, anytime I paint somebody, I do research. I started, and I did some preliminary research on Joan to see if I could get excited about painting her, if I could connect with her. And I really admired her and just thought, man, this woman was amazing. So I asked permission. That is something I do. I ask permission of the person that I'm painting. And I said, and if I in turn that, okay, the go ahead. And so when I was sitting there, centering in prayer and asking Joan, what do you want to say in today's time? And what I got was, show the truth of who I was, not an idealized version. And it was like clear as day. And it's like, I don't know how to do that, Joan. I'm not that good of a painter. I don't know how to do that. I need some help. And so I started painting, and the first thing that I noticed was her skin. And I remember it was brand new paint, brand new, and I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, what is wrong with this paint? There's, and then I stood back and I thought, oh my gosh, it looks like she's bruised. But, and then I was thinking, but she wasn't beaten. Why does her skin look bruised? And I thought, I need to go back and I need to really, really search and search and search. And sure enough, when she was arrested by the British, she was beaten and tortured in that prison, which I don't know, my naivete, I was absolutely shocked that they would do that. She was so young. She was like 17, 18 years old at that. I mean, she was young. And I just thought, oh my gosh. So I didn't try and fix it because I knew that's Joan. She's directing me. The next thing that happened is right in this area, I would lay down the paint, and the process, this is encaustic. I painted her with molten beeswax and a blowtorch, okay? And that process is you lay down, I have a hot palette that's heated to about somewhere between 180 to 200 degrees. I paint it on with a bristle brush that is not, it is not synthetic. It's real bristles because synthetic would melt. So I painted it on, and then every time you put down a layer of paint, how am I doing? Am I cutting it close? Okay, every time you lay down a layer of paint, then you have to heat it so that it melds with the paint underneath. So there's layer after layer. There's probably 25 layers here. It kind of gives it a multi-dimensional look. And some artists will use a heat gun. Not me. I like blowtorch. I really, it's an empowering thing, and you have more control, so I love blowtorch. But I think I'm like this little pyro or something, I don't know. You know, I catch stuff on fire, like on purpose, and I do all kinds of stuff.
When are you teaching a class?
When I teach, I did start teaching because there were several people who wanted to learn this process. I teach one-on-one. Because if you got a blowtorch, I got a student who's got a blowtorch, I am like right there, guiding them. How do you do this, okay? But it's so incredibly empowering. So anyway, so when I was painting, I laid down the paint, and I used the torch, and normally it would just like meld and go, you know, connect with the one underneath. This area right here would not. The color kept lifting. I thought, I did it again. I thought, lift it again. I was like, okay, third time is a charm. And I went, okay, what is that? And I thought, there is nothing, maybe an injury, but no, she wasn't injured. Surely she wasn't injured. So I stopped and I started digging and digging and digging and digging. And finally, hours and hours later, I found one line that said when she was in the first battle, she carried the banner, and she was shot with an arrow, quote, between her throat and her shoulder. And I was like, okay, Joan, I got it. I just had chills. I mean, it was just like, wow. And then their third thing was these little yellow things on her face. And I looked at again thinking, what is wrong with my paint? And then by the time this happened, it was like, okay, what is she telling me? And I sat and I looked and I looked and I prayed. And what I got from that is, oh my gosh, I believe this is a reflection of the flames as she's being burned at the stake. I know, right? It's just like, okay, Joan, this is a really powerful painting. I have had children look at this painting and tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, she's looking at me and she's following me. She's like her eyes, kind of like your son did with Jesus Wept. He did the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh. And there's an explanation that, yeah, she was with me. You know, I felt her presence with me the entire time. And if I had any doubt, you know, these things happened before I even knew. I had not read, you know, she had been tortured, or I had not read about the injury. I had not read, you know, well, this one I didn't read. This one was just, wow. And so and Jesus wept, the same thing, right? Oh, that means 1 minute. Oh, dear.
Are you going to do a demo? Or
Oh.
He just wants to play with the
how many minutes?
Like 10. No, I'm teasing. I did bring a book, my portfolio. It's just got some of my work. You know, you're welcome to take a look at that. Oh, and I do have the Jesus Wept. I actually have a story that I wrote about the inspiration for this. Do you want one? Here we go. You're welcome. So with all of my paintings, this is the process I go through. It's a very spiritual process. I never kid myself that I'm that good of a painter in order to do this. You know what I mean? You got one, okay. And then I brought one more to show you. This is Hypatia. For some reason, Hypatia and I really have a connection. She was the first recorded female mathematician, and she was also a philosopher. She was from Alexandria, Egypt, drove her own chariot, never got married. She's just like a real empowered woman. And on this one, what happened was one of the other artists where I have a studio. So if you're interested if you'd like to come to see my studio, I'm happy to host you to come see my studio. I have a very nice studio close to San Antonio College. It's big because I have a lot of work on the walls and so forth. So, like I said, this Hypatia, I know I've run out of time. Does anybody have any questions?
You were not incarcerated. You were not in the jail.
Oh, no.
You were incarcerated.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
By my husband, who locked me up. Yeah, no. Thank you for.
When you talked about speaking to the people in jail, okay.
No. I spoke to them as the CEO of Dress for Success. Yeah, no. And I would tell them, although I cannot understand, I've never been institutional, incarcerated, I have been, I have been locked up, yeah. And so I just felt a real connection with them.
Wow.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Jesus wept is the one in the hallway, right?
Yes. Yep.
How long does it take you to do a piece of work?
It depends. The biggest part is for me to pray and center and then get out of the way. If I can do that, I can, like Jesus wept, I completed that so quickly, I can't believe it. The same thing with Hypatia on this one, because I was told about a show on Tuesday that the president of Copini told me about a show, and I said, oh, it was a jury show. Oh, I think I should do that. I've never done one before. And I'm looking around everywhere, and it's like I had nothing to show them. Everything was either in shows or sold or not for sale. I painted that in 2 days, and it won second place. Yeah, because I just got out of the way. I mean, it really is about, letting somebody else be in charge. The power. Yes.